Welcome. We're doing a really important deep dive today. We want to get past the headlines, and really unpack the facts around the 2025 Decker children killings out in Washington.
Exactly. We're piecing together the timeline, looking at the sequence of events, but also trying to understand the person at the center of it. Because the details about Travis Decker, they're quite conflicting.
Okay, so the case, it's about the disappearance and murder of three young sisters. Peyton, who was 9, Evelyn, 8, and little Olivia, just 5 years old.
And the 3-month nationwide hunt for their father, Travis Caleb Decker, that followed. It's a truly chilling story.
Right, let's start with the initial timeline. It began May 30th, 2025. Decker picked up the girls, 5 p.m. for a scheduled visit.
Standard procedure, seemingly.
Yeah, exactly. But he was supposed to return them to his ex-wife by 8 p.m.
Yeah, you didn't.
No. 8 p.m. came and went. No sign of them. That was the first red flag.
And then, just 3 days later, June 2nd, the worst possible news, searchers found the girls' bodies.
Where exactly?
Near the Rock Island Campground. That's in Chelan County. They were found near a white GMC Sierra truck.
The truck he'd been living in.
That's right, yeah, a 2017 model. He was unoccupied when they found it, but the discovery site itself was, well, deeply disturbing.
Okay, tell us about the evidence, what the sources say.
It's grim. The victims, they were found zip-tied, and plastic bags have been placed over their heads.
Oh, wow. Zip-tied. That suggests planning.
It does. It points away from just a sudden impulsive act. The preliminary findings suggested they died from asphyxiation.
And the truck, what did they find there? That linked him directly.
Yes, definitely. Inside the truck, investigators found Decker's wallet. And maybe even more damning, on the tailgate, there was a bloody handprint.
Okay, so wallet handprint, the focus immediately shifts entirely to him.
Absolutely. He becomes the sole suspect, the target of this massive manhunt.
But before we get into that manhunt, there was some early controversy we should probably flag up. Something about an Amber Alert.
Yeah, that's right. The Washington State Patrol caught quite a bit of criticism. The Wenatchee police had requested an Amber Alert be issued.
But it wasn't.
No, the State Patrol didn't issue it, despite the request. Which, in hindsight, raises serious questions about how the initial risk was assessed.
Why underestimate the danger in that situation?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? Maybe it ties into who they thought Travis Decker was. Which kind of brings us to, understanding the suspect himself. His profile is complex.
Okay, let's get into that. Travis Caleb Decker. He was 32, born 92, grew up in Pewaukee, Wisconsin.
And his high school years sound almost like a different person compared to what happened later.
Right. Described as extremely athletic. He played football, JV, and varsity, wrestled in the Wisconsin State Finals back in 2010.
And he followed family tradition into the military. His grandfather was Special Forces.
Right. So he enlisted in the Army, served for about 8 years, starting 2013, infantryman.
Yeah.
He was married for 10 years, too, got divorced in 2023.
So on the surface, you see this decorated veteran, athlete, family man.
But underneath that surface, things were clearly falling apart by 2025. What do we know about his mental health around that time?
That seems to be the critical piece. Sources confirm he'd been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, BPD, and also PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder.
2 very serious conditions. BPD often involves intense emotional swings, impulsivity.
Exactly. And PTSD, often from combat exposure, can lead to hypervigilance, isolation, difficulty coping. It's a really challenging combination.
And this was impacting his basic stability, right? His living situation.
Hugely. By the time of the murders, he was homeless, really struggling. He was basically living out of that truck, staying at campgrounds, sometimes motels around Wenatchee.
That's completely unstable.
Profoundly unstable. And this instability, likely driven by these unmanaged mental health issues, is just crucial context.
Which makes the family situation seem even more complicated. His ex-wife's attorney actually said Decker was an active dad.
Yeah, that's striking, isn't it? No history of violence towards the kids or towards her. They apparently communicated regularly.
Not just as co-parents, the attorney said, but almost like friends.
It paints a picture of someone trying to maintain normalcy in one part of his life while completely unraveling in another. The attorney even said the system failed him, pointing to the lack of support for his mental health struggles.
Like a breakdown in veteran support or social services?
It certainly suggests that. Someone with his training and background falling through the cracks like that.
Yet there's also this isolation. His own brother, TJ, apparently hadn't spoken to him in 10 years after some kind of falling out.
So intense compartmentalization seems likely. The friendly co-parent on one side, but also dealing with severe mental illness, homelessness, and family estrangement on the other.
And this brings us to the manhunt. His background wasn't just about his personal life. His military training became a huge factor.
A massive factor. It shaped the entire law enforcement response once he vanished.
Let's talk about that training. What exactly did he do in the Army?
Well, he was an infantryman for 8 years. Did a tour in Afghanistan in 2014. The sources mentioned specific units he was with. The 503rd Infantry, 173rd Airborne over in Italy.
And more elite units, too. Green Beret, Ranger Regiment.
Affiliations with both, yes. He served as an automatic rifleman with the 75th Ranger Regiment, part of the Washington National Guard, and was a Green Beret. That level of training is significant.
But didn't he wash out of Ranger School?
Yes. There's a detail in the sources saying he was removed from the Ranger Regiment after failing to complete Ranger School. But importantly, failing that specific school doesn't erase the skills he'd already learned.
Skills in survival.
Evasion.
Exactly. Things that would make it incredibly hard to find, especially in the kind of rugged terrain out there in the Pacific Northwest. Authorities were genuinely worried about that.
And it looks like he planned to use those skills. He wasn't just running scared, he was preparing to disappear.
The digital footprint shows that. The U.S. Marshals found Google searches on his account just days before the murders.
What was he searching for? Things like, how does a person move to Canada? How to relocate to Canada? Even jobs in Canada.
Wow. So, planning an escape route while potentially planning the crime itself?
It certainly looks that way.
Yeah.
It fits with what the Chelan County Sheriff said, that Decker was known to be well-versed in outdoor survival.
And he'd lived off-grid before.
Yeah, apparently for up to almost 3 months at one point. So he had the skills and the experience to vanish. And he did, for over 3 months.
Which takes us to that long search, segment 4, the hunt.
Right. It spanned multiple states, involved numerous agencies. It kicked off in earnest around July 5th.
Where did they look first?
Idaho. Based on a tip, a big search operation was launched in the Sawtooth National Forest.
Any luck there?
Intense search, but no. 4 days later, July 9th, they called it off. They did find a hiker who looked like him.
A false lead.
Yeah, turned out to be just a look-alike. Confirmed, not Decker. So the focus shifted back towards Washington.
And the summer wears on. It must have been agonizing for everyone involved. Any other potential leads?
There was a moment in late August, August 28th. Investigators found some bones in Chelan County.
Human remains.
That was the initial hope or fear, depending on perspective. But forensic analysis came back around September 3rd. They were animal bones.
Another dead end. So frustrating.
Absolutely. The search pressed on, though, until mid-September.
And then a breakthrough.
Finally, September 18th. That's about 3.5 months after the girls first disappeared. Human remains were found south of Leavenworth, Washington.
Okay. And this time?
This time it was him. But there's an interesting detail in the timing of the official confirmation.
What's that?
The remains were found on the 18th. 6 days later, September 24th, the U.S. Marshals Service officially declared Travis Decker deceased.
Before DNA confirmation?
Yes. The DNA analysis confirming the remains were his actually came back the next day, September 25th.
Huh. Why announce it a day early? Pressure to close the case?
Could be. Maybe logistical reasons, scaling down the massive search effort. But it does create this, slight procedural gap.
And once they confirmed it was him, could they tell how he died?
That's the final unresolved piece. The Chelan County coroner made an announcement on September 26th.
Yeah.
Due to how decomposed the remains were, an autopsy couldn't determine the specific time of death, or crucially, the manner of death.
Meaning they couldn't say if it was suicide, an accident, exposure?
Exactly. They couldn't determine how he died, only that he was dead.
So when we pull all this together, what have we learned? We have this incredibly detailed timeline of the crime, the suspect's troubled background, the extensive manhunt.
Yeah, the sources give us a pretty clear narrative arc. We see this highly trained veteran grappling with really severe mental health issues, homelessness, someone who, by at least one account, the support systems failed.
Who then commits this calculated, horrific act against his own children.
Right, and the case is considered solved because the perpetrator is confirmed deceased.
Yeah.
There's no trial needed. The active investigation ends.
But that final detail, the how of his death, is just unknown, lost to decomposition and the environment.
Precisely. We know who died and that he died, but the circumstances remain a mystery.
So here's something for you, the listener, to think about. The coroner couldn't determine the time or manner of death. What does it really mean for a case like this to be declared solved when that final chapter, how the prime suspect died, is basically a blank page.
It highlights that difference, doesn't it, between official confirmation, yes, the remains are his, and a complete narrative conclusion. We don't have that full conclusion here.
A really powerful point to consider. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the tragic complexities of the Decker killings. We definitely encourage you to continue exploring these difficult subjects.